Oh, hey there. Don't mind me, just idly spinning this giant monster of a model on a lazy Susan in the hobby studio today. Thank you for joining us. My name's Brett. If this is your first time catching the Hobby Collab Live, welcome. We do a combination of hobby shows, AOS live streams, and every once in a while, a 40K weird thing. And that's what we're going to be doing today. If you think this is cool, you should like the video, consider subscribing to the channel. And yeah, the plan for today is to make some additional progress on the Manta. We started this 2 days ago. I'd finished building the model, we put some paint on it, and yeah, in that last show, I ran out of gray paint, the gray that I use for this this base coat. I've ordered some more, but it's a Vallejo color, and none of our local game stores stock Vallejo. So it's going to be 5 days until it gets here from, I don't know, Arizona or something. So so what we've got today is actually way more interesting than just base coating. So it's sort of a weird blessing in disguise. I probably would have just like spent all day yesterday base coating and then more base coating today, and we wouldn't have gotten any of the fun stuff. So what we're going to do instead is some cool masking. So I've got some masking tape on the wings here. I started doing that before the show. I had a few extra minutes. I've got the engines primed. What did I do with those? Here they are. So after the last show, I took these up and primed them. So these are the engines that go on the back of the spaceship. So we might see if we can do some engine glow on these guys, get some stripes on the wings, and then if we have some extra time, I also have like a plan for an effect I like to do on the inlets, the engine inlets. So we can do some of that. There's two sets of engine inlets. There's one here as well. Yeah, checking out chat. The inside joke here is that this thing takes up so much space on the hobby studio table that between 2 days ago when I did the first one of these and now, we had to move it around a bunch to make room for other shows we were working on. And my gosh, I was very nervous moving this around, that something awful would happen to it. But that didn't happen. No destroyed Mantas. I'm not sure, like, would the Manta be destroyed if you dropped it on the floor, or would it break the floor? I'm not sure. We'd have to test that to find out. Anyway, this is what we're up to today. I've got a few things I want to chat with you guys about. We did some story time last time. I'm not going to do as much of that today. I mostly want to try to make some progress on the actual paint. My hope is to take this to LVO, which is in about 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks, like 16 days or something. And so, yeah, it doesn't have to be done. It just has to look passable. It has to have sort of the base coats blocked in. I'd like to have a little bit of weathering on there, but I think the other big like piece that I've not even really started thinking about yet that needs to happen is a flying stand. So in order for this to be sort of interesting, either as like a display piece or as a gaming piece, I need to figure out the flying stand situation. Okay, so I think I'm going to start polychrome. That is a great question. I have a cool photo of the Manta in all three scales, 28mm scale, 6mm scale, and whatever the heck BFG is, 0.001mm scale, all next to each other in the same photo. And yeah, so I have, this is the 28mm scale model. I actually have weirdly 3 of the 6mm scale ones. I bought a bunch of them on eBay and have used them both for Epic, but also like I wanted to do a crashed one as a train piece for Epic, so I got a spare one. And then, yeah, in BFG, I have like 20 of them for BFG. So maybe 25 Mantas. Not a brag, just a weird thing. I like the idea of the same model in multiple scales. I don't know if that is just a weird me thing, but the idea of playing the same, but the same, like, you know, like narratively the same people in like different scale engagements is fun for me. Okay, so I'm gonna switch to top view. This doesn't show what I want to show. Dang. Does this show what I want to show? That's a little better, but not quite. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. All right, let's do some masking. So I had a look at some of my other airplanes, and what I've done on my other airplanes is, so I have two different, I'm going to explain my headcanon a little bit. On the Barracudas, I have just a single stripe that's asymmetric on the left side. And it's an orange accent stripe. And I did this on the Orca as well, a single orange accent stripe on the left side. On the Tiger Shark, when I painted my Tiger Shark, I did two small stripes, like all the way out on the wingtips, right where it sort of like flares upwards. And I hadn't really thought about this before, why I did it that way. I haven't really thought about why I did it that way. But this morning, as I was I was like, I have to make a decision. Am I going to do two stripes? Am I going to do one stripe? These hobby shows, these journey shows are great for as a forcing function to force you to make a decision about this kind of stuff. Anyway, I wasn't sure which to do. And what I realized is that the Tiger Shark is a symmetrical model. It's got this is the AX-10, so it's got like the two heavy rail cannons in the front, and then it's got missile pods, and then it's got wingtip burst cannons. It's a symmetrical model, but the Barracuda and the Orca are both asymmetrical models. The Barracuda has one gun, and it's not in the center line of the vehicle. It's like slightly offset. Similarly, the Orca has the cockpit like off to one side. It's an asymmetrical layout, and the seeker missiles are on the other side. So I realized, like, sort of just intuitively in the back of my lizard brain, that when I was doing the striping on the Tiger Shark and the Barracudas and the Orca, I sort of like picked up on that, like which of these models are symmetrical and which are not. And so the symmetrical models got two stripes, one on each wingtip, and the asymmetrical models got one stripe just on the left. And I kind of like that as like an algorithm for deciding how many. Have you guys ever seen the YouTube channel This Old Tony? It's like, this is the format. He's got like a project that he's working on, and he just like talks with his hands. You never see his face. I feel like that's what's happening right now. Polychrome, yes. The Aeronautica Manta is the same scale as Epic. Anyway, that was like a side within an aside within an aside. So what I've decided is to do two stripes on the wingtips. They're going to be a little bit more involved. The Tiger Shark ones were literally just sort of pinstripes right along the very outside edges. Like, let's see if I can, like really just like right here. It would have been all the way out on the edge. I'm going to zoom out even a little more. Okay. Oh, you can see my box of junk in the back. That's not fun. Let me move that. Okay. Cool. So yeah, so the Tiger Shark had the wingtip stripes like really kind of far out here. So I'm not gonna, and they were just like really thin pinstripes. So I'm gonna do a little bit more than that this time. And I have a thought. So these holes here are where the burst cannons go. And here. And I kind of like the idea, like I don't want the stripe to overlap one of the burst cannons, because then what do? The burst cannon sits in this hole. There's kind of a two-tone line down the middle, but the burst cannon can rotate. So the two-tone line gets like messed up. It like messes up your stripe line. But I thought, what if one of these burst cannons was like within the stripe boundary, and so is like has an orange sort of dome? That could be kind of cool. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this stripe sort of encompass one of the burst cannons. Then it will like sort of get narrow here in the center. And then as it gets up here, there's this other burst cannon thing I have to deal with, and there's this panel line. I don't mind crossing panel lines with the stripe. I could just go straight ahead, but I actually think it could be kind of cool to have the stripe then jog inwards and then sort of finish up here. Bryce, look into the idea as a forklift style stand so people can look into the tank bay while it's elevated. Yeah, I think that's cool. The tank bay is not supposed to be distended when it's flying. Like in flying mode, the tank bay is supposed to be retracted, and it's supposed to be like the having the tank bay be able to drop down is really only for like landed, embarking, disembarking kind of thing. So I don't know. It could work well. That could be an interesting idea. I guess yeah, and they will open the back door while it's flying, but just so that the crisis suits can jump out. But in order for the tanks to get out, I think the tank bay has to drop down. But yeah, I need to figure out, I for sure need to figure out a solution to the flying stand problem. Okay, so just to like, let me just do this on this one here as a bit of a example of the idea I had. And so I want this drone here to be, this burst cannon to be centered in the stripe. And I'm just eyeballing the width of the stripe here. A little bit dangerous, I guess. I have a ruler. Maybe I could use tools. That is what separates us from the animals, after all. So this looks like 37 millimeters. Cool, 37 millimeters. Fun fact, when I was a kid, 37 was my favorite number because of the movie Clerks. And I thought blowjobs were funny as a kid. Definitely don't think blowjobs are funny now. Serious business. All right. Let's see here. All right, so I can match this this line here. There's another line. Chris has an idea. Food for thought, you should print an epic size Manta and test your paint theories on that. Yeah, that's a good idea. So I've actually already painted an epic Manta. And yeah, in the idea that in the world where in a world where you're imagining that like the same dudes are just like hanging out in different scales, that it's important that they be painted the same, right? That the 28 millimeter scale models be painted the same as the 6 millimeter scale models. Okay. All right, sort of like that. This needs to come over a little bit. I almost started the stream without tweezers. And I was like, I had like 5 minutes extra. I was like, I'll just start doing some masking, get ahead of the game a little bit. And realized all the tools I was missing in the last 5 minutes. I was like, oh, I need a cutting mat for cutting my masking tape. Oh, I need a A knife. Oh, I need tweezers. I need all these things. Okay. Guys, still on about blowjobs. You know, my middle name is John. And so there was like a hot second when I was like, you know, like you have these moments in your life where you're like, I could completely reinvent myself. I could, you know, like you go to college or like you move to a different state or something like that. You're like, these people that I'm meeting for the first time, I have no idea who I am. There was like a hot second where when I was like moving from Michigan to New York State, where I was like, I could go by BJ. That's like a thing I could do. Decided not to do that. Probably for the best, huh? Yeah, BJ Lee, that's right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Sticky tape is sticky. I'm trying to use the lines on the model as a guide, but sometimes they're not quite in the right spot to be useful. Oh, this view is not good. This view is not working. Okay, there we go. Anyway, yeah. I don't remember how we got on this topic. How did we get on this topic? I'm losing it. One thing I wanted to talk about. So I joined a year ago. I joined a Facebook group called the Titan Owners Club because I thought, I was like, oh, I have not built my super heavy giant dumb vehicle yet, but I own it, and it's called, the group is called the Titan Owners Club, not the Titan has built the thing and played a game with it club. So I was like, oh, I can join the Facebook group. But I didn't never post anything in it. So I posted a picture yesterday of my progress build. Basically, I had a lot of the photos from the slideshow that you guys saw on Sunday, and then also finally like a picture of my progress at the end of the stream, Sunday's live stream, and I was like, oh, this will be my first post in the group. It'll be fun. But like I didn't sort of think anything of it because I don't know. It's like a Facebook group for people who. For who have like giant big dumb models. Like it's just full of that. It's like people posting their Warlord Titans all the time. It's like 100 all day Warlord Titans. And so I was like, this is not going to be anything impressive or crazy. Like this is just all this group is. Like it's just all impressive and crazy stuff. But it got almost 300 like comments and likes in one day. I was like, geez, this is like the most interesting piece of social media engagement I've ever created in my entire life. I was surprised. I thought it was people like the Manta. I guess it's a cool thing. Okay. So I just, in the past when I've done this, I've just eyeballed it, you know, like I just, oh, that looks about right. And it's not been anything too crazy. Shoot. So I don't have a on-axis line. So I'm trying to figure out where to put this piece here, but I don't have an on-axis line to like use to trace, to track, to follow, you know. So I'm gonna have to do a little bit more eyeballing. Okay, maybe that's good. Okay. All right. So this is going to go sort of here. Oh, you know what I can do? I can put this. This is like a inverse of what I want. But I can just put it down really gently. Okay. And then I can take this other piece and just kind of match it. Okay, and then I can peel this one up. Okay, and then this guy. I also want to kind of keep this a pretty pseudo-standard distance away from this burst cannon. Kind of like that. And then here, for this one, I've got a nice panel line that I can follow down here. Nope, but oh, this piece of tape's not quite long enough. Let me get a longer piece of tape. Okay. That looks good. No, not quite. There we go. Okay, cool. I'll take this up. All right, so this is what I'm imagining for my stripe. Can you see it now? Sort of like yeah, I'll use the thick tape for this part. Got fat tape. Yeah, I'm sort of imagining like this. What do we think? Does that look? That looks kind of janky. Dang. I don't love this. I don't love this. The last line, yeah, this one here. I feel like maybe this needs to be thinner. If it's like, this one is thicker than this one. Maybe if those were the same, and then this one was thinner. Or, I mean, the alternative is I could just go straight with this thing and not have this little jog here. And that was sort of my first inclination. I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm just going to go straight here. Yeah. Not the bend. Yeah, Bryce, that's kind of my thought too. Is like this one goes straight, it gets wide at the back, and then have a second thinner line next to it. Kind of like that. I'm going to try that. You know, this masking thing is like, it's kind of a low risk way of testing out these kind of ideas. Not that paint is like high risk really at all even, right? Like you can just paint over it. It's nice having the paint be fully dry this time. When we did this 2 days ago, the paint wasn't fully dry and I was worried about peeling up the dark gray. Not having to worry about that this time. All right, let me save all these pieces of tape. They actually get better the more time you peel them up because they get less sticky, which is kind of what you want. Even this blue painter's tape is like a little bit too sticky. I've seen people do like you take the tape and then you put it on some like brown paper or newspaper and you just like stick it a bunch of times as a way of like de-tacking it, getting it less tacky. Is that a word? Before you put it on the model. Okay. All right, so I'm thinking like this. And then, yeah, my thought is to do this and then a second sort of thinner line parallel with it. Oh no, but there's like a thing right here. There's a little nubbin right here that gets caught if I do that. See this nubbin right here? I guess I could do it right. I could fit a thinner line in there, I think. I think that's workable. All right, I'm going to try it. Okay. All right, here's the other thing I'm debating. This right now, this angle matches the 45-degree line on the panel lines here. And that is intuitively the right thing to do. I'm sort of thinking like oh, there's a 45-degree line there. I should match it. But I could do like a 60-degree line. Here, I'm just going to hold this up and see how I feel about it as a way of... So if I were to do this, does that feel better? That feels kind of better. You guys, it's sort of hard to see. So if I did this versus that. What do you guys think? 60 degrees versus 45 degrees. Well, if I do 60 degrees and paint it, I can always peel it off and do 45 degrees later if I don't like it. I think the 60 is better, you know. All right, Pat, you're the only one who's paying attention. I'm going to take your opinion as gospel. I'm going to tweak this a little bit. Chris, I know, I'm just joking. Okay, so if I do that and then which piece of tape is the right size? The 60-degree line will be hard to recreate on the other side, I guess is the only downside. The 45-degree line is a little easier because I'm matching a panel line. It's a little easier to recreate. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, especially when we did the Orca a year ago, yeah, Barry, I love it. When we did the Orca for real, or when we did the Orca last year, I build this as like, oh, I'm going to paint this thing. You guys can hang out with me while I like work on this project. But the reality is I had so many like analysis paralysis, like stupid, oh, should I do it this way? Should I do it that way? I can't decide. I'm not an artist kind of moments. And then having like you guys in chat, like point me in the right direction was, you guys like helped me so much on that build. It was amazing. Just with like color choices and in the moment decisions, you know, where normally I would have like taken it home, slept on it for 3 days. It would have taken me forever. And just, I feel like I need you guys in chat to like point me in the right direction. Otherwise I just can't get over some of these humps. All right, let's put down some I like this better. I like the 60-degree angle better. All right. Cool. And last one. I'm not going to do, so I'm going to basically just do the top. Like I was sort of thinking I could run tape down the back and the front. Oh, you know what? The other thing is weird. The tape wrapping around a curved surface doesn't trace a straight line. This is super annoying. This is super annoying. Ugh. I feel like this is going to require some amount of freehand. I'm not going to be able to like... Yeah. But I think what I was saying is I'm not going to commit to this fully just yet. By sort of painting the wraparound. I'm just going to paint the top and we'll sleep on it. And if I decide I want to redo something or change something, I'll not have to kind of redo things quite as much. All right. So let's call that good. Let's get some orange paint and let's lay it down. I've got orange paint. I've got, so my orange is called Amaranth Red. Can't see that at all. Amaranth Red, Vallejo. And then I've got this gold yellow color as well that I do for like volumetric highlights on the orange. Yeah, I like it. I like it, Pat. This was kind of more of the vibe I did on the Barracudas as well. And then having the second pinstripe right next to the first, I think will add some visual interest. It'll evoke, you know, classic race car-y kind of things, which is cool. All right. This is not an air paint. So I need to add a little bit of water. And then I've got a second one of these paints. I don't think I'm going to use as much orange as I used gray the other day, so I'm not super worried about running out, but this bottle's also half gone already. So, but just letting you know, we're not going to run out of orange, he says. All right, where did my paintbrush, here we go, my back of paintbrush that I used to stir paint in airbrush cup. I think I diluted the paint a little bit too much yesterday when I was doing the light gray on the engine nacelles. So I'm going to leave it a bit thicker today. Okay. We got orange paint coming out of nozzle. Oh no. Here, hold on. The airbrush hose is caught by the tripod, the camera tripod. Okay. Here we go. It's annoying. Splatter. Got some splatter. Not that, I mean, the whole thing's going to be orange eventually, but one of the things I've realized painting this orange specifically is that I really like it much better applied through an airbrush than applied with a paintbrush. It was actually one of the things that got me into painting airbrush painting was the realization that, geez, I keep doing that. I can't start the airbrush on the model or else I get splatters. Like, it's all going to be orange, but part of what I like about it is that some of the gray shows through. And so if you've got a splatter of paint, like it's more matte, it's more desaturated. When you paint it with an airbrush, because some of the undercoat shows through. Whereas with a paintbrush, you have to fully cover it or else you get brush strokes. And I don't like it as much. So if I get splatters, The splatters will show because I'm not fully covering the base coat. And now I'm clogged. There's part of me that's like, oh, I love the idea of buying non-airbrush paints and diluting them because you're sort of getting more pigment in the bottle by doing it that way. You get more sort of, even if all you do is airbrush with it, you get sort of more, yeah, you get more effective usage because you dilute the thick paint down to run it through your airbrush. You effectively get, you know, a bottle and a half of paint kind of thing. But the problem is you end up wasting half of it because it clogs and you, I don't know, you stir it. It doesn't work out that way, as much as I might wish it did. Okay, so I'm looking at the screen right now. This looks very bright on the screen. In person, it's like super not bright. It's very dull. I don't know if there's an angle I can turn this to that it doesn't look quite so saturated. But yeah, this looks super muted in person and matte, which is weird because, or maybe it's just our monitor here. Okay, here we go. I do want to do some kind of a highlight, and it's important that I do that before I pull the tape up with the gold. So I think that's the next decision, is where to do the highlight. On the Orca, it was easy. There was a high point. There was like the stripe sort of was on a part of the model that sort of had a crest, and so it was easy to just like do the highlight on the raised section. I guess I could do the front, maybe like sort of the front area here, or I could do. I kind of like the idea of doing it around like on the dome of the drone of the burst cannon. That could be interesting. Maybe also I could also remask this later once I have a better idea of like where I want to do the other panel modulation effects, the other volumetric highlights. It's not too hard to remask and follow existing lines, so I might maybe that's the play here. Okay. Yeah, it's I don't know. We might have the saturation turned up. It's not even it's a little bit duller, but not as bright, but also much more saturated on the monitor. Or sorry, much less saturated in real life. Okay. So this is I'm going to let that dry a little bit before I pull up the tape. I could do the other side, but I'm kind of a mind to get one side kind of done, or like, you know, do the second pinstripe, confirm that I in fact like the idea of this as a plan, and then copy it on the other side once I sort of have that full plan figured out. So I think I'm going to switch gears a little bit at this point while this dries and start working on the engines. So yeah, Bryce, you and I both have, Bryce has started working on his Hierophant. Your paint scheme, you've got a paint scheme already figured out, right? Like it's going to be, you have a Tyranid paint scheme, and it's awesome. It's kind of time consuming, but it's amazing. I wonder if that helps or hurts. You know, you don't have to, there's less thinking involved, I guess. But maybe you've not applied that paint scheme to such a big model before. I guess you've done other big models, Carnifex and Hive Tyrant and stuff. So you've got a little bit of a vision there. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna, here's what I'm doing with this. Okay, so I've got these engines. I primed them, so this is the gray primer, and then I shot it the back with black. And so what I planned with these, they go on the back here. Like for example, this one sits here. My plan is for this outer ring to be this light gray color. Then these, I'm calling these like the nozzles. I don't know, the exhaust ports for the engines. These bits are going to be black. And then there's going to be like a blue glow in the center. So I did this all black with an airbrush earlier. And then, so I think I want to mask off this black, having done it here. And this will be fairly easy to mask, just like do masking tape around it. And then I'll airbrush the light gray on the outside. So that's what we're gonna do here now. I'm gonna, oh man, this is so much fun just spinning this thing. It's like, I feel like this is the adrenaline rush people get driving $1 million cars on the Autobahn. They're like, this is an extremely expensive thing and I'm gonna do something extremely reckless with it. Isn't this fun? Baby. Okay. So you're not going to be able to, I don't have a way to show you what I'm working on the bench because I didn't really imagine that was going to be doing a lot of that. But yeah, I guess, yeah, so what did I want to talk about today? I had a couple things I wanted to talk about today. I think LVO is one of them. This will be my 4th time going to LVO, playing in the narrative. Maybe 4th time, I think, yeah. And no, yeah, because there was a skipped year in there, right? There was 2021 was skipped. I don't think we went in 21. And then, but yeah, I'm curious if you guys who have gone to LVO, what you like about it as an event. What event do you go to? Do you like that event? What don't you like about it as an event? What do you wish they would do differently? I'm thinking about it from the perspective of the narrative because that's what I've done in the past and what I'm doing this year. But I don't know. I guess in our local group, people who are going to LVO for the first time, they're typically like, "Oh, I want to go to the competitive event because I've never been and I feel like I should once." But then after that, they kind of don't do that anymore. Maybe that's not true for AOS. But I feel like for 40K, people go play in the competitive event once, and then they're like, that's a bit of a slog. Like, unless, if you think you've got a shot at winning because you're like super, super good, maybe you do it over and over again, multiple years. But I feel like the schedule, like 3 games a day, is exhausting, and maybe it also depends like where you are in your Warhammer playing career. If you're like in your early 20s and you've got all that energy, that's cool. But I feel like I don't know that I have like the stamina for 3 games a day anymore. Is LVO Champs 3 games a day, or is it 4 games a day? It might even be 4 games. Or no, is that Nova? I'm not sure. I've heard some horror stories of, or no, there's a shadow. If there's a shadow round, if you're like on the edge of being able to make it to day 3, you might have to play in a shadow round on Saturday evening. Okay, I did. Here, I'll show you where I'm at. I did one. I masked this thing. Yeah. Maybe you hate LVO. Maybe you think it's a dumb event. You're like, Nova's better. Why would you go to LVO? Yeah, here in the West Coast, this is sort of like our home big event. We can drive there. It's a full day of driving. It's a lot of driving, but it's a fun road trip. It's a fun road trip. Yeah, Pat, Nova. Nova's in your backyard. It's a fun road trip, and Vegas is like simultaneously like very affordable and like very expensive. You can definitely get very inexpensive things in Vegas, and you can also spend a ton of money and like get incredibly expensive, like ripped off in Vegas. And so there's a lot of like figuring out how to do LVO the way you want to do it. Like if you want to have a really good time and spend a lot of money, you can do that. If you want to do the opposite and like get really cheap hotels and cheap food and not spend a lot of money, you can do that too. So it's sort of like a choose your own adventure of events in that way. And I think most people end up doing a little bit of both, choosing to spend their money on the things that they find valuable. 3 then 2 games. Yeah, I think so. AOS Champs is definitely 3 games each day minimum. And I think this is where like it has in the past been like a fourth event, a 4th day or 4th game if they need a shadow round. And they almost always do in an event that big. And so you end up potentially playing, because there was one year where we were like trying to go out to dinner, and there was like somebody in the group who was like, oh, I might end up winning the whole thing. I'm in the shadow round. I'm going to be playing Warhammer until 10 at night, getting my 4th game in. Bonkers. I think, on my soapbox about the narrative event, I think the other thing I like about the narrative event is you're not left like wondering what you do on Sunday. Zach, I know you're planning on playing on Sunday because you're definitely almost certainly 100% gonna be in the top 8. So Sunday's for sure on the in the cards, but for the rest of us mere mortals, it's like, well, what do you do on Sunday? I guess you just hang out. That's also a thing. Like people who have never been to LVO before, they're like, what do I do on Sunday? And like, I need to like have an event to do on Sunday. And my advice to them is always like, don't worry about it. you know what you want to do on Sunday is chill the fuck out. You want to like sit down in a chair for 8 hours. That's what you're going to do on Sunday. And if you want to walk around and see something, it's, you know, there's plenty to walk around and see. You can see there's the painting competitions. There's all these other things going on, like the narrative event. There's like, you can walk around and see the champs. You can look at other game systems. There's a vendor hall. There's so much cool stuff to see at Vegas, you know, in the convention or not in the convention, that you didn't get to see the first 2 days because you were playing Warhammer. And so, yeah, I don't feel like, I feel like the first time you go to LVO, you're like, oh, you have this realization that, oh, I'm only actually committed for Friday and Saturday. What am I going to do on Sunday? And then you quickly realize that that's actually not a problem. That's a problem you thought you had that is totally fine. You're totally fine. Not actually a problem. Okay. No flip-flops. Even drop out, yeah. There's a lot to do in Vegas. If you want to do Vegas things, you can do that on Sunday too. But honestly, like, most people are exhausted by the time they get, if you're playing in the champs and you've played 3 games a day for Friday and Saturday, by the time you get to Sunday, you're just like, I'm going to sit down. I want to sit down. I want to sleep in, sit down, eat some food. And then at 2 in the afternoon, maybe I'll leave my room and go hang out with some people. Okay. All right. Here's where I got. I got 2 of these done. I'm gonna light gray the outside of this. I kind of want this backdrop here that kind of frames these to also be light gray, but I want it to be a dirty light gray, like it's sort of singed. Yeah. Okay. That's my thought. That's my thought. I wish there was a way I could spin this and then get it out of the way so that I guess I could just move the camera down a little bit. How about I do that? I'm going to adjust the camera. Sorry, guys. Okay. All right. So I've got my masked engine. Got my unmasked engine. I think the probably smart thing to do is to mask this one before moving on. So why don't I do that real quick? Yeah, I used to chafe a lot at this process. I used to hate the idea that like, I'm spending all this time masking. I could just brush paint this and, you know, it'd be faster. It'd be done by now. Turns out, I didn't actually time myself. But turns out brush painting takes a long time. I don't think that's actually true. I think I was slower, even accounting for the masking time, when trying to brush paint anything with any amount of fiddliness. And there's like, this is kind of fiddly. There's like a boundary here that I'm trying to kind of keep sacred. So that I've got a nice tight line between the different parts of this. And so I think the masking, as much as I like kind of chafe at the quote unquote wasted time spent masking, I think it ends up being a net win. And the real reason to do it is because it just looks better. Like the end result is smoother. So the time spent is a thing, but really it's about the finished product. So we'll get there. We're not in a rush. Actually, we kind of are, but you know, not going to worry too much about it. Bryce, you're working on a Hierophant. What's your schedule for? Do you have you put together a spreadsheet yet for your painting schedule? I have to do this day. I have to do this day. You got your stand figured out, which I feel like is low key the sort of big wild card for me still. But for a project like that, yeah, I don't know. I like to put together a list, especially if I've got a fixed number of days. I'm like, oh, is this even possible? Oh, I need to create a calendar and figure out what I'm going to do each day between now and January 16th or whatever it is. Okay, that one's done. And then one more engine nozzle. Yeah, so I think the last time I did something like this, a vehicle with these kind of nozzles, I just painted the whole thing light gray and then brush painted the black after the fact. And again, I don't think that was. It took a long time. It took a lot longer than I thought it would. So I'm very okay taking the time this time to mask this off. Have any of you guys in chat been to Vegas before, even like not onto a con, and like have any Vegas recommendations, shows to see, like not con things, but just like shows to see? I hear people talking about Omega Mart a lot, and I've not done that. I've not been there. I used to, a long time ago, I had a job. My first job out of school was working at a company that made inspection equipment, and one of the machines we made was a machine that inspected bullets. And so we sold these machines to ammunition manufacturing companies. And the big like gun show in the United States, like the big like industry show, is in Vegas, and it's actually like a week before LVO or a week after LVO or something. I have like former coworkers who still work at that company, and anyway, our company would like go to Vegas to like show off our machine, like as a part of a trade show. And so we weren't exhibiting to like gun nuts. We were exhibiting to like basically the other booth people, like the other companies that had booths. Like they were the people that we were intentionally trying to like target by being there. And so it was interesting. Like I got to go to Vegas as a kid, 24-year-old kid or something. And it was an interesting time. My boss was a little bit of a partier, and so he would take customers out, and we'd go out in the evenings. I was not a partier. But it was still fun. But But we did like a lot of the Vegas-y things, you know, like we did like Blue Man Group, which I really enjoyed Blue Man Group. Kind of more than Cirque du Soleil, weirdly, as a musical act, but also like sort of visual entertainment. There's some weird engineering in Blue Man Group too. They like build all their instruments out of like PVC pipes and shit, which is kind of neat to me. And they like construct them during the show. They like have these instruments that they like expand on them and like add things to them. It always just seemed like really fun and neat. Anyway, I feel like it's kind of a meme, but I kind of really enjoyed Blue Man Group. This one is getting weird. It's not laying flat. Arms dealer, yeah. You know, I have some funny stories from both that period of my life, but also like that trade show. We would bring one of our machines, and it's actually like that again. Like its job, the machine's job was to inspect ammunition, and so, and the machine was physically quite large. You know, it was maybe the size of this a big like folding table. You know, like 6 foot by 4 foot, or not 6 foot, 6 foot by like, no, it was probably 8 foot by 4 foot, like on the like footprint, but then like, I don't know, 8 feet tall or something. It was quite large. And we'd bring all these bullets, like without gunpowder. We had basically made special bullets that didn't have gunpowder in them, and we'd run them through the machine over and over again. And we would introduce, we had like specially custom made bullets with like defects, you know, a pinhole here or like a scratch or something like that, something that you wouldn't want. It would make the bullet not work. And so we had custom made these bullets with defects, and we'd introduce them into the batch, and then we'd recirculate the parts through the machine over and over again. So this is this machine that was like running, making all this noise. And then it would be sorting out like the bad parts from the good parts in real time. We'd get all these people come up to the booth and be like, "Oh, what you doing here, man? What you doing? You making bullets? Making ammo? You loading rounds?" We're like, "No. To make ammunition, you need a foundry. You have to like melt brass and pour it into this thing, and there's a stamping equipment. You have to like take these brass cups and stamp them and extrude them out. It requires like hundreds of tons of stamping equipment, you know, like these massive factory machines. And loading ammunition would require that we had gunpowder on site, which that's not okay in a Vegas convention hall." And so it's just hilarious. Like people who had never heard of this machine, which I don't blame them for not having heard of this machine. We were doing something like kind of new. But just the idea that like the first impressions that people would get, like what we were doing with this, what this machine was, like someone who'd never heard of it, they just walk up to it, walk around a corner, bam, see this thing, and their first thought was like, "Oh, you must be loading rounds." Yeah, yeah. At the end of the day of like telling people, "No, we're inspecting ammunition," and explaining the whole thing to them, a lot of us, like younger, less patient, less invested employees would just like lose it a little bit. And by at the end of the day, the last couple people would be like, yeah, we're making ammunition here. And that's what this machine does. It just makes 100 rounds a minute, popping them out. Raw brass ingots going in, formed shell casings coming out. Yeah, we run, this whole machine runs on like a 20 amp breaker too, you know. Super normal. Anyway, That was my experience of Vegas for a long time. Now I just go there to play games. Okay, so this is blue gray pale. I mentioned this the other day. This is the color that's on these, the light gray on these engines. It's not pale gray blue. It's not gray. It's not gray blue pale. Blue gray pale. Let's make sure all the orange is out of here. Okay. I think I might have a little bit of a clog. Let me just double check. I recently got my own Badger Patriot after using Zach's and enjoying it so much for so long. But it's funny, like a brand new one of these is like a completely different machine because Zach's like, it's so well used and worn in and broken in, and also I think we've been theorizing that the newer ones are like made to a different standard, or I don't know if, and I think it's probably worse actually. I think Zach's saying that some of the new stuff he's gotten, either spare parts or even whole new airbrushes from Badger, has been just kind of like lower quality. Anyway, the new one I got has some weird quirks. All right, blue gray pale, here we come. Add some water, because again, this one is also not an air paint. Vallejo sells some of their paints in both air color, an air version and a non-air version. The problem is, many of them are not the same color. You buy the air version and thinking that, or you buy the non-air version thinking, oh, I'll like just get this to like touch up with my brushwork some of the air paint that I did with the airbrush, and it's not the same. It's not the same. All right. Oh wow. It's a feature, guys. I think I've got a clog. This one's kind of not the end of the world because this whole thing, I just want this the solid color. It's kind of fine, but annoying. Yeah, I've got the trigger pulled all the way back, and it's just barely coming out. I will say, we were talking yesterday. So yesterday I was using the Anthem, Badger Anthem, which is basically the same internals as the Patriot. This is the Patriot. It's the same internals as the Patriot, just siphon feed instead of gravity feed. And I had not properly internalized this, but one of the nice things about a siphon feed airbrush is that you can remove the paint cup and clean out the area in the nozzle and then put the paint cup back in. You can't do that with a gravity feed airbrush because as soon as you like unscrew the nozzle, all the paint just like runs through. Like the nozzle is what's keeping the paint in the cup. The needle is rather. So there's this like a small number of handy tricks you can do with features of siphon feed airbrushes. If you get a clog on a gravity feed one like this, you kind of have to empty all the paint out, and yeah, the siphon is a whole new component to clog. You're right, Molecule, but it practically it kind of just doesn't. I don't know why. It's a big enough opening, it's big enough hose that it just doesn't end up clogging. So right now I'm just trying to get through this paint. Oh, I got another splatter. Just trying to get through this paint so that I can not waste it. And then I'll see if I can clean it out. You learn these little tricks that get you like just a little bit more working time. Oh, if I blast onto some paper, or if I cover the nozzle while opening the trigger, it like backflows into the cup, but also like kind of clears the nozzle. But it doesn't like actually fix the problem. It just like gives you a little bit more functional life out of it. Yeah, pretty much. Ibuprofen, that's a great analogy. It's a painkiller. Okay, I think this one's pretty good. I really do appreciate the fact that the primer color that I chose, so I rattle can primed this. I like doing that with resin models. But I intentionally chose a rattle can primer that was like very close to actually both grays. Like it's like sort of halfway between the dark gray and the light gray. So it makes the base coating a lot easier. I worry less about having to do multiple coats for coverage. Okay. So we'll set that down. And then, yeah, I'm going to clean this out before I do the second one. The challenge is going to be getting this tip off. I don't know, Zach, if you're out there and you hear this, do you have like a pair of pliers, or I don't know, you just have like more of a kung fu grip than me? I don't know how you get this tip off to clean it. You can't. It's stuck. Oh wait, I got it, never mind. Yeah. All right. That. And then normally this is weird. Okay. Is this supposed to be, are these supposed to be, oh, interesting. I thought mine was broken because this little needle tip, the the cone that the needle goes into was attached to this nozzle, this threaded piece, but maybe that's intentional. Maybe that's how it is. Okay. So let me get the schmutz out. Got a nice airbrush cleaning stream here. The stream should be titled Cleaning an Airbrush Whilst Next to a Manta. Man, look at all the great, there's like tons of great colors in here. Like a nice mix of what Meg was doing this morning. Some greens and blues, some grays, some oranges. Lots of good stuff in here. That's like the weird blessing and a curse of this Badger is like, it'll flow even while like mostly clogged. It'll still paint. It doesn't clog easily. But yeah, when it does, it's like by the time you have to take it apart and clean it on the inside, there is a lot of gunk in there. It takes a lot of gunk to clean to fully clog it. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, Manta adjacent hobby. Yeah, exactly. Okay, that feels way better. Let's go for round 2 with the next engine. Molecule, I think you just joined. What are you doing at LVO this year? Are you going to LVO this year? And if so, what are you doing? I saw you're painting Zangors in the Discord, and that had me thinking maybe that's like, I know you had a Thousand Suns army, and then you got rid of it, and then now you're starting a new one, I guess. Is this for LVO? Is this for... Oh, classes. I'm not going. Oh, okay. Bummer. Bummer. Yeah, what's the... And what are the Zangors for? Is that like... Are you working on them towards something? Because it's been a while since you've been hobbying. You mentioned that. You've Been on a bit of a hobby break. I think I put too much water in. Need more paint. Okay. Okay. Let's give this another shot. T-Suns 2.0. All the dust, none of the wisdom. Yeah, I'm sure you've grown a lot as a hobbyist, learned a lot of new techniques. That's exciting. All right, here is engine number 2. Yeah. I think that's pretty common. Well, maybe it's not common. I take that back. I don't think that's pretty common. It's not, I don't do that. I get better as a painter and I look at my old models and I'm like, aw. I love that old model that was terribly painted. I feel like when I in the past have intentionally avoided improving, so that way I don't feel the need to throw my old models away. That's my like, but cutting off my nose to spite my face, and I feel like that's maybe a thing that people aren't talking about enough. People who don't like throwaway work and getting rid of old models, I feel like they secretly resist growing as a hobbyist in order to avoid that situation. And I think I actively sabotage myself at times. Well, that's certainly one way to approach the thing you do for fun. Zach has been very clear that my one job while doing this project is to not get paint on the mouse. And so far I've been successful, but I've had a couple near misses. Okay, that is it. We did the second one. See if I can set this down without freehand the mouse. Yeah, very intentionally paint it. Mask. Polly, that's actually a really good idea. I'm surprised that the mouse in the hobby studio doesn't just have masking tape on it. It's one of those like Apple Magic mouse things that I think has a touch screen on it. It's like it has a capacitive sensor, so I think you can like scroll. You probably can't have masking tape on it, but Okay. The orange is definitely dry. I think I had a thought. I think I might do a little. I think I might do a little bit of glow with the gold around the burst cannon opening. I kind of like that as a thought, and then I could sort of continue that. I might, maybe I need to wait until after I have the burst cannon installed, just so that it matches. So yeah, okay, I'm talking myself out of it. But I will pull the tape off and do the second stripe. So let me clean the airbrush first. I'm going to pull the tape off after that. We'll do the second stripe, the little pin stripe. Make sure we like that look. And then this, then the engines will dry while I'm doing that. So I've got kind of two projects going on here. The engines and the pin striping. And we're just trading back and forth, waiting for one to dry while we work on the other. Hey, Polly, I see you're active. Are you still playing Epic these days? I know Boris has been getting into Legions Imperialis, and he at one point mentioned that that he had an interest in Epic, but that I think it was more just like it's a dead game and people don't play it and yada, like more of a, not that the game of Epic wasn't interesting to him, or it is interesting to him, just like it's kind of it's hard to sort of find a gaming group and that kind of thing. But anyway, it had me thinking about other people in the community who are into 6mm scale models. I haven't played Epic in a little while, but oh, there you go. Boris is in chat too. Yeah, honestly, I don't know which is rougher. Like Imperialis has new models, but it's set in the 30K universe. Does that make it? That probably makes it harder, right? Like it's probably mostly appeals to people who play 30K. Okay, let's do a grand reveal. Oh, wow. I adjusted the camera, and now the whole Manta's not in frame anymore. Okay. Oh no, Polly, that's sad. Oh no, look at this. There's some overspray. There's overspray there. I'm an idiot. Ugh. Why did I do that? It's all right. It's all right. Everything's fine. I was like, I'm going to make sure to put lots of tape on so that I don't get overspray. Immediately gets overspray. Yeah, because Polychrome, your army is Imperial Guard, right? That you play in Epic, and so there's probably ways you could use those models to play Imperialis if you wanted to. I know Solar Auxilia is like a different army, but I think they could proxy as. Oh, you do? Oh, okay. Molecule I did not varnish before painter's tape. When I did some masking on this, so this color, this section here, I painted 2 days ago on the last stream, the last journey, and I had just done the dark gray base coat, and we let it dry for like half an hour while we did some story time, and then masked this off and did the light gray. And there was a little bit of painter's tape pulling up dark gray. Not a lot, just a few spots here and there, little tiny spots, very touch-upable. But this time, after having let it sit for 48 hours, it's not doing that, which I'm happy about. Okay. So here's my thought. I'm going to leave this side on. I'm going to reuse this guy, this thin one. There's one straight, I cut this with a knife. So there's one straight side and one not so straight side. Actually, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do something different. Okay, here we go. So I've got this here. Let's explain what I'm trying to do. I want the pinstripe to basically go like right down next to this one, but there's this little nub in here. Is that out of focus? I think that's out of focus. Let me see if I can refocus things. Put away the step ladder, so I have to stand on a chair. You guys can't see this, but this camera is like basically on the ceiling. All right. What am I doing wrong? Okay. Oh, there we go. Cool. All right, problem solved. Okay, so there's this is the one I want. There's this little like bump right here, and I want to have this pinstripe basically be between the existing orange stripe and this little nubbin. Hey Nick, good to see you. It's an aircraft, so it can like start off the table, but also has hover mode, so it can start on the table. And if it starts on the table, it has 20-inch move, just like most aircraft with hover mode. But it doesn't have a published base size, so people are kind of like, you build a base for it that you feel is appropriate to support it. It's freaking massive, so it's oh, see you, Polly. Bye. So a lot of times the base just ends up being like so big that it, and given in the current edition of the rules, like the base can't be like on terrain. You can't have it like partially on terrain. So there practically ends up being a lot of limitations on where it can go while interacting meaningfully in the game, which, yeah, makes it just kind of a little awkward. I think that's honestly the biggest challenge, is like in order to have it be a functional part of the game, you want it or need it to have a small base size. But then you're worried about it falling over. So yeah, I think my goal or my plan, my hope is to like build the smallest base that I feel I can get away with, just so that I can like, I don't know, be on the table in a meaningful way while still like not just like tripping over terrain, you know. Okay, eyeballing this. So I put a couple slits in this. You might be able to see there's a couple slits in the tape there. And I'm lining them up with this nubbin so that when I lay it down, the tape can lay flat. Okay. Yeah. All right, there we go. Titanium based gyroscopic balancing system. That's basic. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm imagining. Tungsten. You want tungsten. Tungsten is one of the densest elements. Uranium would be better. Uranium is denser, but has the downside of being radioactive. Okay, then I need another little bit. Yeah, you want mass in the base, yeah. So my thought right now for the base is to use the same style of base that I did for the Orca. So the biggest sort of round base that GW makes, or oh, there you go, gyro. Yeah, I love it. That's a great idea. Was to use the whatever it is, 6 1/4 inch base. I forget, 120 millimeter, 180 millimeter. I don't remember exactly. I think it's 180 millimeters. It's like 6 1/4 inch base. It's the size that the spiders are on. Zach's AOS spiders. It's also the size that the tiger shark is on. That was the size. I was like, oh, the Orca's like a big flyer, kind of like the tiger shark. So I'll put it on one of these things. So my thought is to put the Manta on that size base. Every Manta I've ever seen has been on something bigger than that. But again, the Manta doesn't come with a base, so you're free to put it on whatever size you want, sort of technically speaking. But yeah, most people who build these things are like, don't want it to fall over. So they just put it on very large base as a way of like guaranteeing that it won't get tippy. But I'm wondering if through some clever tricks I can get away with something, you know, basically that same base size that the Orca's on, that the tiger shark's on. And in that way, I end up with a little bit more playability. Not that it's going to be overpowered. I'm not trying to be like super gamery, but it doesn't really interact. It doesn't really play the game properly in 10th edition if you can't actually move it around the board. You know, like it's meant to be a transport. It's meant to like put dudes in it and jump them out and have a good time. Okay, I'm not doing as good of a job this time masking across this this curve. I'm gonna have to touch this up with a brush for sure. Okay, so there's one side of the pinstripe. Let's do the other side now. I actually don't think, I think I made this pinstripe too thick. I actually think I'm gonna redo it. But I'm gonna do this other side first. Oh no. All right, maybe just like 2 or 3 millimeters off the existing line. There we go. It feels good. Maybe it's not quite straight. Yeah, I'm gonna retry. Okay, now I'm gonna lift this up because this is wider than I want. So I just put this down as a guess, but I guessed wrong. Molecule, we were talking about this during the last stream. I was kind of, so I asked the question, like, a lot of people will build these big models and put like lights in them, or like sound machines. Somebody was like, oh, you should do a smoke machine inside the model. So then like the model itself has some like cool tech built into it. And I was like, I don't know that I really want to do that. That feels a little gimmicky to me. But a balancing gyro, like, that sounds badass. And not gimmicky, I mean, it's gimmicky, but like, not something anyone's ever done before, I don't think. Kind of into it. You got me thinking now. Yeah, and I weirdly think it actually would not be that hard. I think you could make it work with, because it's got the tank bay, right? Like it's got this volume inside of it, and you could pack inside of there. You need just a big spinning wheel, right? It's basically, you want it to be able to spin. That would be compelling. Can you imagine? It's balanced on a pen, but then it pivots freely. Yeah. Did you already say that? You'll hold, pitch, and yaw, but not pitch and yaw. No, I want it to be able to yaw freely. It'll hold, pitch, and roll. It'll hold, pitch, and roll. But yeah, yaw, it would be free to yaw. Which would be cool, Because then like, yeah, it's on the table, but if you wanted to turn it, you could just by touching like a wingtip, you could just like turn it. And the pen could have like a little rubber pad on the bottom where it contacts the table. So there's like just enough friction so that it doesn't sort of yaw on its own. But with, yeah, gyro is in the model. It's like in the tank bay. And the tank bay is, I mean, you can see it here. It's like, I don't know, 10 inches across, and it's just a big flat open space. So you could have a big rotating disc inside the tank bay, a motor stack, a big disc, and then a microcontroller. You don't even need a microcontroller. You just turn the motor on and it just spins at some controlled RPM. Wow. It's actually like even simpler than I thought. Yeah, you just need power and a speed controller to like maintain the gyro speed. Oh man, this is, I think this is, I don't know if this is happening for LVO, but this is freaking badass. I'm super in love with this idea now. The more we talk about it, the more I'm like, oh, this is dope. You basically want it to behave exactly like one of those gyroscopic tops that you buy you get in like a, you know, a Cracker Jack box, or you win at the arcade or something. It just has this big rotating mass in the horizontal plane, and it balances on a post. So we need a battery, a mass, a couple bearings, a motor, speed controller, done. Yeah, this is happening. This is now happening. Yeah, and this totally gets around the like, oh, my model's so big I can't fit it around terrain. And they're like, oh, well, what size base is it supposed to have? Well, it didn't come with a base, so it can have whatever size base you want. So I choose it to have a 5mm base. Oh, that's impossible. How would it ever balance? Hold my beer. Polychrome left at the wrong time. Where are you at, Polychrome? Okay. The problem with little tiny lines like this is that it's actually like way more obvious if they're not straight and if they're not parallel. If like the two sides of the line are like sort of diverge in thickness. And so I need to be really careful about that. Yeah, and I think people would kind of get you scared of it. But like gyroscopically stabilized stuff is all over the place and is like very safe. The riskiest thing is not that it like falls over, because like physics says it won't. But like the riskiest thing is that the bearings explode, or like that the whatever's constraining the like spinning disc fails, and like then you have this like super fast spinning disc that like busts out of your model and like nail somebody in the noggin. You know, that's the actual risk, is that the structure of the gyroscope breaks. But that's that's what engineers go to school for, is to make sure that shit doesn't happen. Okay. Housed within pounds of resin. Yeah. Mortal wounds. I love it. Real life mortal wounds. Yeah. Take D6 mortal. That's what happens when it explodes. Everything around it takes two D6 mortal wounds, including the humans in the room. All right. I've got a nice thin pinstripe. Last time I did this, I got overspray right here, so I'm specifically going to add a little bit of tape there, protect against that. And then let's do this. Gotta mix up some paint. Yeah, I mean, this feels like very doable. It's the unknown unknowns that I'm worried about. Once you start getting into the build, what weird stuff do you realize you didn't know at the start? It's cool though. I love the idea. All right, got some orange paint. And then after we spray this, we didn't fully do the reveal on the last mask, on the last orange mask. Looks like I've got some kind of other clog. Yeah, if for people who are watching this on the rewatch, on the VOD, if you know anyone who's ever done a gyroscopically stabilized flying model, let me know. I'm super curious. I would love to read a build log or it sounds like a cool project. Yeah, Boris, I hear you. You do red on white a lot, right? Imagine you have similar kind of challenges. I'm mostly just struggling with clogs right now. I try not to, I'm intentionally not doing full coverage. I want a little bit of the gray showing through. I like this paint like not fully saturated. Okay, there we go. All right, let me just get some water through this airbrush, and then and give that a few seconds to dry, and then we'll pull up the tape. Okay, cool. Exciting. Okay. Let me do this side first. Ooh, I taped over the other orange. That was a bit of risky business. Ooh, ooh, no. You see, like, it gets a little bit narrower down here. I'm gonna have to watch that on the next ones. I don't love it. I don't love it. Yeah, and you can only tell that because it's super thin like that. If it was thicker, you wouldn't even see it. But the thin stripes are, it's way more noticeable. It's going to require some repair. Hey, Age of Canucks. Arrived just in time for the grand reveal. Not too shabby. It's here. You can see it more if I do this. You see what I'm talking about? The gray line between the two is thinner back here than it is up at the front. And that's not, yeah, it's like perspective would be showing you the inverse. So it's like even worse than it looks on camera. But it looks crisp. I like as a concept, I like this as a concept. I just need to execute better on the masking. I wish maybe I'll get, before I do the other, and maybe as a second attempt, they sell like really thin masking tape, just like 2mm, 3mm thick masking tape, and that could be my ticket to like a perfectly spaced, you know, just do this all as one, not do it as two separate steps, but then just run a thin piece of masking tape right down the center. I think that's the play. Okay, cool. Then the last, so I'm done with Manta for today, I think, with big Manta. What I want to work on in the last, I don't know, half hour or so is the engines. So thin Tamiya tape. Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's what I need. So here's the engines. We mask these. They go here. Ooh, that's the wrong one. It's the left engine. Okay, so that's, it goes like that. What I want to do is try my blue glowy effect on the stuff in the center. Come off. During normal use, you should never need to remove this. It's not meant to be glued on because you have to take it off if you want to completely remove the tank bay. But yeah, that's the only time you ever need to remove the engine, is when you want to completely remove the tank bay. Oh dang, Godforge, did you just tune in? You missed a very interesting conversation that I think you would have enjoyed. Bryce, toughness is 12, wounds is 60. It's 2 up armor, 5 up invuln. Okay, Godforge. I'm gonna re-say the thing because I want to say it to you in person rather than make you rewind. But imagine, so there's a tank bay in here. Tank bay. It's empty right now. It's a big sort of horizontal, flat, 12-inch, 10-inch square pizza oven with nothing in it. Imagine you fill that with a disc. You attach a motor to the disc. You support that disc with bearings on top and bottom. You spin it with a motor. You attach a speed controller that maintains that speed. You install a battery somewhere in there so it's powered, self-contained. And then the flying stand for your model is a 6 millimeters diameter piece of steel with a rubber foot on the bottom. And you attach this like into the bottom of the Manta. And your base is now like a 5 millimeter base. You don't need like a big giant base, and it's just gyroscopically stabilized. What do you think? This was Molecule's idea, by the way. But I think it's like kind of doable. Would it have to spin? It would have to spin pretty fast. Yeah. I mean, you could also make it very heavy. I don't know. You probably don't want to make it very heavy. You probably want it to be just so that the whole thing isn't. Spinning drum weapon. Fast. Yeah. I mean, the Manta's already 1 million pounds. You don't want it to be like 10 million pounds. So I feel like if you have the choice of trading off speed and mass, I think speed is probably... But you also don't want it to be noisy. Yeah, you don't want it to be like whirring. What's that whirring noise? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Yeah. We're going to be on the news. That's right. Nerds miniature. Nerd convention. 3 nerds die from Xena warrior princess spinning chakra boomerang when it's released from plastic model spaceship that some dumb guy had installed because he thought it was a good idea. Anyway, just put on your face shield. Yeah, you hand your opponent a Kevlar vest and a helmet at the start of the game. What is this helmet for? Why do I need to wear a Kevlar vest? Trust me, bro. Yeah. Yeah, it's just, we're just worried about active shooter situations. That's it. That's really all it is. Okay, gotta get this orange paint out. I'm gonna be painting blue now. Blue and orange are kind of opposites, so I don't want any orange showing up in my engine glow. I think this is my biggest problem with mixing paint in the cup, in the paint cup, is I just end up with a lot more clogs. I don't know if there's a chemically reason why that is the case, but the paint seems to clog a lot less with actual air paint. Oh, hey, thanks, Zach. Yeah, the orange stripes on gray is it's like Home Depot, but there's a reason some marketing exec at Home Depot decided to make their corporate colors orange and gray. It's because it looks good. Yeah, no, Godforge, that was my thought as well. Like, I'm not worried about the gyro failing and the model falling over. I'm worried about the gyro failing, this spinning disc ejecting itself across the room and like decapitating the person at the table next door. Like the risk is not that the model falls over and breaks. Like if the gyro fails, we have much bigger problems on our hands. Oh God. Loctite that shit, bro. At some point, Loctite doesn't even do the job. Okay. Thank you for tuning into my show about cleaning an airbrush. As my way of apologizing to you guys for having to endure all of the airbrush cleaning. We're done with that. On to, so here's the paints I'm planning to use. I like this. This is like a dark, it's called dark Prussian blue. Then I have Prussian blue. Then I have flat blue. I might not use the flat blue. And then I've got azure. And so this is kind of the progression I'm going to do. I've also got a sky blue. I'm not sure I'm going to use that. And I've also got a white that I can use for some highest highlights. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do Prussian blue. There you go, Umi. I've never heard of Prussian blue until I recently saw somebody else using it on YouTube and was like, oh, I got it in like a combo pack of paint. And I thought I was just using it up. I was like, oh, what am I gonna use this for? I didn't intend to buy it, I guess is what I'm saying. And I've since found lots of uses for it. So it's sort of a purple blue. It's got a little hint of purple in it. And it doesn't really look like that when you look at the paint in the bottle. But when you paint it on, it immediately becomes clear. Yeah. Okay. No, weird. So, back to talking about gyroscopes. I weirdly have built a crazy, insane gyroscope before. It wasn't meant as a gyroscope. It was meant as a flywheel. It was just a really, really big flywheel. And it was on a treadmill that needed to go like the exact same speed all the time. It was a research treadmill. And so they wanted this treadmill, but like when you walked on it or ran on it, every footfall, you couldn't, like, your foot lands on the treadmill, you're like pushing back on the tread, on the conveyor belt, like slows down or speeds up the speed of the treadmill. And for this research project, they needed the treadmill to be like super constant speed, regardless of where you were in sort of your gait cycle. And so we basically built a custom treadmill with like a 40-pound steel disc that spun at like 1,000 RPM. It was the most terrifying thing. And it worked. It just sounded like a jet engine spooling up when you ran on this treadmill and you feared for your life. Had to be dynamically balanced. It was, yes, exactly. They wanted the human weight to be insignificant compared to the sort of inertia of the treadmill belt. It was terrifying. And, we did all the sort of calculation work to like design it, and then built it. And we're like, we have made a mistake. This is very dangerous. And I don't know. I think they still use it, but I'm not sure that this is for like a university project a long time ago in grad school. But I don't think they use I made it so that the flywheel portion was removable, and you could either run it with the flywheel or without the flywheel. My guess is that they don't use the flywheel. That like at some point they decided, hey, you know what? The like small amount of speed variation, the quality of the data that we get associated with this like small amount of speed variation we get when we run this without the flywheel is like, it's fine. It's not worth it. We're not in this for like sacrificing our lives. Our lives are not worth it. The extra, 5% better data quality. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it was terrifying. All right, I'm adding a little bit more masking tape to this because I'm realizing that this blue, as I do these various blues, I'm going to get overspray on the light gray that I did earlier. So I'm just adding a little bit more masking tape. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to adjust the camera again. Okay. All right. So now that I've paused my work to add all of this masking, I'm sure my paint has dried in the airbrush cup. Okay, Yeah, it looks fine when wet. You're like, oh, I've got a nice blue glow there. But then as it dries, especially over black primer, it becomes really subtle. Okay. I think I'll do the other one while I've got it. I've got the paint color loaded up. I'm going to do the other one. Sailing yachts with giant gyros. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the gyro on a boat is like sort of the modern equivalent of a keel. Like the keel's job is to keep the boat upright. And you can, but there's a limit to how effective a keel can be. And a gyro just kind of completely circumvents that. Yeah. Yeah, oh yeah, and a keel adds drag for sure. All right. Okay, it's good. Just reusing all of these like random tape bits that I had left over from orange stuff, previous orange stuff. Actually, you know who else would be really excited about this idea is Saray. I think he would be super into turning a giant Warhammer model into a death machine. Yeah. Okay, so here's number 2. Okay. It's simple enough. There we go. And I think I'm doing dark to light, so I can kind of just it's all the same, in the same hue family, so I don't have to be super careful about cleaning the airbrush this time. I'm not switching from orange to blue, I'm just switching from dark blue to light blue. What's the theory for an actual conversation about art? What's the theory on, like, when you're sort of doing a gradient? Do you like to go light to dark, start light and then build it up to a darker color, or do you like to start dark and then build it up to a lighter color? I feel like maybe the conventional wisdom was different a year, like 5 years ago than it is now. Light to dark. Yeah, dark covers better. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like old school thinking was like, start dark. You always prime black and then you start with dark colors and build it up to light colors. But I feel like now there's like now that underpainting is much more in the zeitgeist. Starting light is maybe more of a thing. Glazes, yeah. Light to dark, got it. Okay, that's interesting, Cody. I appreciate the context. Okay, so now we're going from dark Prussian blue to just normal Prussian blue. Listen, every molecule in this paint is moving at like some fraction of the speed of light. Brownian motion is a thing. Okay, so here's a normal Prussian blue. It's actually very similar to the color of the tape. Interesting. All right, so I'm trying to do just kind of the center. Cool, 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 cool. I'm just trying to dry the dark blue first. A little bit of air. Okay, cool, cool. I like it. This paint, yeah, all of these, because I didn't, because I'm doing over black, they really don't cover super well, so they go on, and they go on looking quite bright, and then by the time they dry, they look a lot darker. So the end effect ends up being a fair bit more subtle than it looks here. Okay, let's load up the next color. I think at this point, I'm going to do a little bit of white in the center. This would be a great time for Zach's Minotaur white that he likes, but I've just got a Model Air white paint. That's, yeah, it's an airbrush paint, but it should be okay. But this is a pre-shade. I'm just trying to, it's clogged. Paint bottle's clogged. I'm just trying to lighten up the center. I'm going to do this really finely in the down the center of the engine glow as a prep for the next steps, where I'll use a lighter blue. That's not going to cover very well, but I want them to pop a little bit more. So. Did I get the clog out? Maybe. Not really. This is dangerous game. You're like, when you have a dropper bottle paint and you're like, if I just squeeze it, I don't need a lot of paint. If I just squeeze a little bit harder, I'll just get a few drops out, right? And then you get paint everywhere. That's the exploding paint analogy molecule. It's dropper bottle clogs. Okay. Okay. All right, so yeah, I'm going to try to do just down the center. I think ideally I would use like a Sotar or some 0.2 millimeter needle airbrush for this, but I'm just going to try to get real close. Okay. Kind of into that. We've got other stages. This is meant to be a little bit. This isn't meant to be done here. I've got more blue colors coming, but I just want to appreciate a little bit with a white. Okay, there we go. So, it's been a little while since I've done this recipe for engines. Painted a vehicle like this. So I had to go back and look at my notes. But I also looked at a couple reference models, and I was like, oh yeah, I really like the way this looks. It's kind of a pain in the butt, but it comes out looking good. All right, so now I'm going to do this azure. None of these paints are, you know, I really should get like a light blue contrast. That would be a great thing. But I came up with this recipe before contrasts were as popular as they are now, and before I owned any, so that's where we're at. I don't love this paint, this azure. I actually think I'm on the lookout for maybe something to replace it in this recipe. It's very desaturated, and I want something sort of bright and poppy here. But this is not really that. It's got the right value. Sorry, no. It's got the, what am I looking for? It's got the right hue and value, but I want more saturation, if that makes sense. I think I used the right words. Ducat blue. Okay. Yeah, I bet, Cody, I bet, or others, I bet there's a better blue engine glow recipe out there. Every other part of this I like. I really like the Prussian blues as the like dark colors. But I don't think I found a good light blue that I really like for engine glow. I'll check it out. Turquoise. Yeah, I've got some turquoise contrast. I don't really want the green though. I want it to be like a sort of pure blue. Like turquoise is a blue-green, right? And I don't really want that look here. Although maybe it's not terrible. Like the orange on the Manta, maybe looks good with, you know, a blue-green engine glow. That green and orange are complementary colors. Maybe that's a thing. I hadn't really thought about it. Or rather, sorry, turquoise and orange go well together. Green and red go well together. Okay, I added a little bit of white to the sky blue. Now it really is sort of more of an ice blue as a quote-unquote final. I'm going to add, I have a blue wash. I forgot to bring it with me, but I have a blue, dark blue ink, not ink, yeah, wash that I could do sort of last around the edges to bring things down if I overdo the highlights a little bit. Oh yeah, that's cool. I like that idea, Godforge. Has a little bit of variation, yeah. Okay. Last engine. Last color. Ugh, I'm so close. Please just... I feel like this is the prayer to the airbrush gods. You're like, please just let me get the last little bit done. Oh, I think I'm just out of paint in the cup. Okay, that's good enough. I'll go back over it with a wash a little later and tone it down in the corners. But yeah, it's almost 3. I've been doing this for a little while. I'm going to pull the tape off, put the engine on the model with the orange stripe, and we'll show off where we're at for the day. Yeah, let's do that. And yeah, and then we'll wrap it up. Okay, so this is the right engine. And there we go. I'm going to adjust the camera a little bit. All right, so let's take the tape off. And this is, as much as I hate the masking process, the unmasking process makes it all worthwhile. So much fun, so satisfying. Okay. And then I'm even going to take off this inner stuff, inner tape. I know it's pulling some of my black paint off. I think I'm not pulling it off straight, which is part of the problem. I'll have to go back in and touch it up. But very fixable. Okay. Yeah, if I, oh no, even pulling it straight, it still comes right off. Is that taking the primer off too? Looks like it. Oof. All right, so that means that's like a section where I didn't wash it very well. See that? There's still some mold release. Because that's not even primer, that's just exposed resin. Wah wah. I did wash it. Apparently not well enough. Can be hard to know, I guess. Oh yeah, there's another one. Even more. Okay, we'll ignore those parts. They're on the downward facing surfaces. No, not those though. All right, and then, yeah, so that's where we're at with the engine glow. Very cool, kind of like it. Yeah, all right. There we are. Sexy looking engine, sexy looking pinstripe. Very cool. All right, I'm gonna call it there. And go grab some lunch. I smell bacon. Zach mentioned BLTs, so hopefully that's a thing. But what's next for this project? Maybe there's a small chance I'll do another journey before LVO, but I'm kind of at a point where I just need to make progress in order to get sort of a minimum amount of paint on this before the event. And so I'm thinking of not filming, of just kind of cranking on this. Depending on how I do, I might, the weekend right before the event, I might do one more journey to kind of show off where we're at. And if we're at a point where I can do like weathering on that show or something like that, that's sort of non-critical if I don't make like tons of progress during that, because I tend to work a little bit more slowly when we're chatting and that kind of thing. So we'll see. There's a chance I might do one more journey that weekend, but I don't know. I'd say maybe it's like a 30 or 40% chance. But yeah, I will definitely be posting update photos in Discord. Yeah, the link to if you're new to the show, there's a link to our Discord in the video description. You should check that out. And yeah, like I said, I'll definitely be posting update photos in Discord. And yeah, I've got, like I said, just a little over 2 weeks to go. This is super exciting for me. Thanks you guys for hanging out and chat, and for keeping me company while I made some progress on this today. And hopefully you enjoyed the watch along. Meg will be continuing on for the next few days with her journey. She's painting Seraphon display board, also in prep for LVO, in the 6 a.m. Pacific time slot if you are an early morning riser, or if you live in another part of the world that's not California. Much less early if when you account for time zones being a thing. Anyway, good to see all of you. Good to chat with all of you, and that's all I've got. Let's take it out, and I'll see you guys around and in Hobby Hang and in Discord. Take care, and I'll catch you later.